Okay, we're going to call a meeting to order and start with the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island, and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. Okay, if we can adopt the minutes of our July 9th Parks and Rec Events Committee meeting.
So moved.
Councillor Burns in support, Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, all in favor. And that carries. Item 1 is the update to the facility rental ice service use policy, and we'll go to our supervisor of recreation for that.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good afternoon, members of council. So this is a policy that we currently have, and it was due for standard policy revision as part of the revision cycle. So the biggest changes that we've done is we've matched the parameters to meet the same scheduling preferences that were updated in the sport field policy. So that went to council earlier this year. Basically what that does is it provides scheduling preferences for LaSalle groups only. So other than that, there's a number of housekeeping items, including that the town has the right to restrict ice time for maintenance, and we're looking at how we can do so, but very status quo and generally housekeeping items. So available for any questions about the policy. Thank you.
Any questions regarding the update to the policy? There being none, recommendation is that the report of Supervisor of Recreation dated June 28th, 2024 regarding the updates to the facility rentals ice surface use policy be received, and that the amended facilities rental ice surface use policy be adopted and the previous version be repealed. Deputy Mayor Capata, Councillor Reno, all in favor? That carries. Item 2, and it's the update to the LaSalle Affordable Recreation Policy. Back to our Supervisor of Recreation.
Thank you. So very much the same with this policy. Again, standard revision cycle. We've included 3 additions of housekeeping items, namely the award of funding for someone who meets the policy parameters cannot be retroactively awarded. So we've changed that as a housekeeping item to ensure that we're being fair in the way that we award funding through the Pathway to Potential program. But other than that, just looked at the policy that was due for revision and made a few edits. So again, available for any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Burns.
Okay. Question through Your Worship to Owen. 4.16 on page 11 at the bottom, it talks about disputes, and the town reserves the right to allocate the use to the user as it sees fit. So what is your basis for that decision if there is a dispute?
I'm sorry, Councillor, is that the facility rentals policy or the affordable recreation policy?
No, it's, well, it says facility rentals, ice use policy, page 11, in that report.
That's the item we just did. Item
Might be 3 of 10.
That was item 1. Is that the one you were speaking to? Or are we looking at something different?
No, I thought this was the second one, but I may have missed that. Okay, I'll ask you afterwards, sorry.
You
I'm
good?
out of order.
You sure?
Yep, I can ask him afterwards, thank you.
Okay. You good? Okay. Councillor Carrick.
Not sure if this is going too deep, but for ice rentals, private rentals, last year I saw a gentleman with no helmet and fell, and they had to call an ambulance and all that stuff. So our staff did a great job, but is that mandatory policy, or helmets are have to use in private rentals? You have to wear a helmet or whatever? It was an elderly gentleman, and he slipped and fell when he was with a private group.
Thank you, Councillor. So I am aware of that incident. It isn't a mandatory policy for private rentals to wear helmets on the ice. And they just have to be aware of our emergency procedures. So since that incident, we've looked to see how we can even clarify further where things are located in the facility that they may need if an emergency does arise.
Okay, thank you, because thank you. I was there and witnessed it, so I'm glad. You guys did an excellent job, but I just wanted to follow up, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on item 2, the LaSalle Affordable Recreation Policy? No? Okay. It's the recommendation that the report of the Supervisor of Recreation dated May 31st, 2024 regarding updates to LaSalle Affordable Recreation Policy be received, and that the updated LaSalle Affordable Recreation Policy be adopted and the previous version be repealed. Councilor Riccio Spagnolo and support by Councilor Reno. All in favor? And that carries. Item 3 is the 2024 Spring Session Report of Joint Programs and Events between Culture and Recreation and Public Works. And this is the Manager of Culture and Recreation. Mr. Bison.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council. This is just a regular report we bring to each Parks, Recreation, Events Committee meeting. This particular report is for the April, May, June timeframe, or spring session. So you might be familiar, or you are familiar, I guess. We bring these each meeting just to give you an idea of what took place the previous session. I think the major takeaways for this report is that the programming numbers are pretty steady, which, as we mentioned in the winter report and rings true in the spring as well, is that we've pretty much got to the point where especially for aquatics, we're kind of reaching capacity, so you can expect those numbers to remain relatively steady session over session. That's the first takeaway for programming. From a second standpoint, from a membership perspective, although the visits were pretty steady, we are seeing an increase in the number of members that are joining. And we've seen, since we reopened from the pandemic, a really steady increase where if you go back, they're in the highest month in 2022 was lower than any month in 2023. And if you look at the highest month in 2023, it's lower than any month thus far in 2024. So generally we're seeing more members join, which is fantastic. The third takeaway I would say is that from a sports field and ice rental for the spring, it increased a little bit, and that's primarily our minor sports groups renting more time, which is also positive, but there remains some capacity here and there, but it's also shrinking. And then fourth, I would say from an events perspective, it was really nice to see some new events this past spring. Events at the event center, like the Cars for a Cause, the Strawberry Licious event, and the Country at Heart event. So we're seeing as we, go month to month, session to session, year to year, that we're getting more events come to the event center, different events, and it's a really good thing to see the diversity of the events, and we look forward to a busy fall coming up. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Okay, questions to Councilor Reno?
Just a quick question. Knowing 2 years ago the popularity of the indoor pickleball, can you, at this point, give us any idea if it will be offered again this year, if there are too many rentals in the way? Have you given that any thought yet this year?
Yeah, so we're working with the LaSalle Pickleball Association. They've booked a handful of dates at the event center throughout the fall that we have been able to accommodate them. The challenge is that we can't book on a Monday and Friday because we're setting up the nets and taking down for the weekend events, and we do have some events that come through the week. But we're also working with them with nothing confirmed at this time to see what we can also offer in the winter months, January, February, March as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Burns?
Through your worship, Joel, I see that we have roughly 746 hours of ice time booked. What is the maximum number of hours, or are we at the max now that the ice would be available for rentals? An answer today, but maybe just a quick email on that. In other words, do we have 25% less, more, or 10%?
Thank you for the question, Councilor. We certainly can email that information to you. To give you a quick answer, for the spring session, there's going to be sort of two parts to that. For the beginning of the spring, from April to mid-May, we have both rinks available. And I would say that there would be a greater number of hours available for booking in that timeframe. Once we remove one of the ice pads and we go into the process where we're doing the maintenance, I would say from May to the end of June, the ice becomes a little bit more hard to come by. So we can definitely send that information and break those down into those two areas to give you an idea of what the sort of fill rate is at that time.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, recommendations at the report of the Manager of Culture and Recreation dated August 9th, 2024, regarding the 2024 Spring Session Report of Joint Programs and Events between Culture and Recreation and Public Works be received. Moved by Councilor Richie Signolo and support Councilor Carrick. All in favor? And that carries. Our fall 2024 activities update, our Supervisor of Programming.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. So before you is the fall activities report. As you're aware, we're wrapping up our summer programming and moving into fall activities. Outlined in the report are quite a few important dates to draw your attention to. The LaSalle Outdoor Pool will remain open for the month of September during the Vollmer Pool closure. The last day of operation for that outdoor location will be Friday, September 27th. We are wrapping up summer aquatic activities and day camp this week, and then moving into fall activities. Registration for our fall activities started today and is opening up. It's open today for LaSalle residents and then open to everyone starting on Thursday. The Vollmer Pool will be closed, as I mentioned, for that annual maintenance beginning on Labor Day. So beginning on Monday, and then we'll reopen on Saturday, September 28th. We're going to be beginning our recreational programs in the middle of September, and then our aquatic programming beginning at the end of September. Sports fields and the splash pads dates of closures are outlined in the report as well. So sports fields on October the 15th, splash pad on September the 22nd. The report outlines many events that are gearing up for the fall as well, both town-led and third-party events. So to highlight a few of the town-led, the Last Call Before Fall, September Night Market, Truck or Treat, Remembrance Day, Heritage Night, or Holiday Lights and Heritage Nights, Breakfast with Santa and the Mayor, and the New Year's Eve fireworks. The third-party events that are outlined in the report are those that were confirmed by the date of my report, which was August the 9th. And facility closures and holidays are also outlined in that report. I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Members of council, any questions? Councilor Reno?
Oh, just a comment. I mean, the number of activities happening around town just seem to get bigger and better, and I want to thank you guys for all your work for getting these activities out, and especially the small festivals and things like that. So thanks to everybody who continues to keep things busy for the town of LaSalle.
Thank you. I have one question. Sports fields, which are Tuesday, October 15th, does that also apply to the tennis courts and pickleball? Because I know we get that question quite often from residents that they consider us closing those too early.
Thank you for the question. No, the outdoor courts, we keep them open a little bit longer, typically until we start to see frost, and then we need to pull the posts out. So they'll be, just depending on the weather, but probably closer to, November 1st or so.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the information. If there's no other questions, we have a recommendation that the report of the Supervisor of Programming dated August 9th, 2024, regarding upcoming activities from August 2024 to January 2025 be received. Councilor Carrick and Councilor Burns, all in favor, and that carries. And our final report is the Multi-Purpose Trail at LaSalle Landing Operations Plan. Our Manager of Parks and Rec, Mr. Beggs.
Thank you, Member of Council. The report tonight for the multi-purpose trail at the LaSalle Landing operation plan is included. Public Works is excited about this new project and getting a chance to have a big role in it. There was a site meeting today and can confirm that everything is on schedule to be done for winter. Just a couple dates. We're looking at probably late September to early October to actually pour all the concrete for the actual trail. And December 21st is the date that we should have ice installed and ready to go. So I was just going to go through the report with some highlights, and if there's any questions after I go through that, we can certainly address those. So the facility is a full year-round active recreational trail with the ice in the winter, obviously, and spray pad in the summer. There's also a mechanical building to take care of with the refrigeration plant, and it's also going to house our Zamboni and parks equipment. And the town staff will be responsible to take care of all these things. As far as opening, following the first year where the contractor has to get the ice installed and get everything running, following that, we'll be looking at probably the first week of December annually to start up the refrigeration and start making ice and getting the ice ready to go. Trying to work towards an annual opening day of the third Friday in December. And depending on the weather, annually, these things could change, but the closing date, we're saying around March 1st, or if we can push it past March break, just depending on weather, we would do that, obviously. While the skate trail is open in the winter months, the hours of operation of the trail would be from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. daily, including weekends and including all the holidays. During those times, we would have Town of LaSalle staff available and at least at work. The way we're staffing this year, and to start off, is the staff would not necessarily be at the park all the time, but they would be there a lot of the time. And obviously, when we're down there cleaning ice, removing snow, making ice, we would be down and at the site. But we would have the staff doing other things during the day. Things that we will need to do on a daily basis are refrigeration checks, ice checks, actually cleaning the ice, removing snow, doing restroom checking, emptying garbage, and any other general maintenance. So we will have 2 shifts, which would be something different than what we've ever done in the winter time before. And we would have our normal shift from 7 to 3:30, and a second shift from 2:30 until 11. So they'd have a chance at the end of the night, after everybody is off the ice, to kind of clean up and make sure it's ready for the next day. In addition, depending on how crowds are, and we'll have to see how this goes, but we have money set aside for some security guard time, so that on busier Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and maybe PA days from school, we could have a security guard on site. And mainly that would be, we're anticipating a little bit of trouble getting people off of the ice when we have to go do our resurfacing. So that'd be to help us with that, and just to have somebody that's there all the time. Some of the other items that will be included, there is music and lighting as part of the park. So there will be lights that are on all the time. There'll be music on. We're talking about having the lights probably turn off at night and only be on partly just kind of for safety, and that's kind of how we show that it's closed. Also, the music would shut off at night. For the holiday season in the first year, are planning on limiting the lighting. I'd like to see kind of what it all looks like when it's done. But in the future, and maybe even this year if we can, we'd have some Christmas lights, and we can probably add to that as time goes on. Speaking about the ice maintenance and conditions, what I wanted to sort of have council understand, an outdoor ice surface is different than an arena ice surface. We visited some sites and had a chance to skate on them, and the ice is definitely more of what you would think of pond ice. It's not as smooth as arena ice, and it shouldn't ever be expected to be as smooth as arena ice. There are going to be leaves that get embedded in the ice. There's going to be, dirt and mulch and if there's a heavy downpour of rain and dirt washes on it, you can't get it all off. So when we do get the calls and complaints that it's maybe not as smooth as the arena, it likely will never be as smooth as the arena, and that would be what is to be expected of an outdoor ice surface. And once those leaves get embedded into the ice, unless you chip the ice away, they're in there, probably for the season. It'll probably it might look a little dirty. It's not gonna be as white as the arena ice. So I think just to get everybody on the page of it is not indoor arena ice. It is out in the open. It is going to get rained on. It is going to get snowed on. It's going to, when it's 15 degrees, it's going to melt. And we're here to do our best to keep it open, and that's what we're going to strive to do. Also, there's a huge learning curve for our staff to even do this, and everybody's on board with doing it, and we want it to be great. So we're here to do it, but it is going to be a challenge. From time to time, we will have to close the trail, and we're going to work on messaging to go out so that we make everybody well aware. I don't want people going down there and getting mad that they didn't know it was closed. To physically close it, there would simply be probably barricades across the entrance to it, signage and such. Depending on the weather, I'm hoping we don't lose the ice at all, but if we do get a heavy rain that's mixed with warm weather, we'll do our best to get it back, but if the ice is actually gone, we would have to close. For the spring, summer, and fall operations, when the ice is out, it's obviously a walking trail, and there's a spray feature, and the spray feature would run very similar to the way that we run our current splash pad. So, the note that you just heard that it's closing soon here, this one would close and open basically at the same time. There's no need to have anybody down there to be monitoring it or lifeguarding or anything like that. It's exactly the same as our current splash pad, other than it just doesn't have the features. It's just spray features. Along with maintenance, we will have a contract with a refrigeration company to do any maintenance that needs to be done. It's very similar to how we operate in the Vollmer, where our park staff that are going to be maintaining it are going to be just learning, and they'll be less experienced than our facility operators. So we will have a contractor on standby so that they can come and fix anything that happens to break. The landscaping and gardens in the area down there, we're going to set them as a priority A, which is our highest priority. So similar to Town Hall and what we do up here. So our goal is to have the gardens looking as good as possible around the trail. As far as the annual budget, we've worked trying to work at all the scenarios of what things may cost, because there's a lot of unknowns with this, but we've tried to put together the costs, and we've come up with a total of $250,000 annually. With that, I'm available for any questions.
Okay, I had Councillor Carrick and then Councillor Riccio Spagnola.
Just a quick question. So, in regards from May to September, the walking trail and the spray splash pads type thing, would there be any other uses like rollerblading or anything that be allowed? I didn't see it mentioned, and I'm not sure that it will be, but just in case.
Thank you for the question. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I think it would be fine. It would be similar to rollerblading on any of the town's trails, I would think. So it'll be a nice smooth trail that you could, especially maybe for younger kids that are learning or something like that.
And then one more follow-up. So in regards to staffing and Parks and Rec, the salaries themselves, how will that be accounted for? Is that going to be an additional budget item? Because I don't see it in the $250,000 as far as your staffing concerns. Just some clarification.
Yep. Good. Thank you for the question. So the additional staffing, they were in the previous budget, so we have them already.
Okay, so
it's not included in the 250.
right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Beggs. A couple questions. So I know you stated that we're going to be utilizing security. So I'm assuming security's not there 24/7. So how do we refrain people from going on the ice after the 10 p.m. time slot?
Thank you for the question. So the area is not fenced off. The landscaping does provide some buffer zone so that you wouldn't walk through the landscaping to get onto the trail. However, when it is closed, there isn't a gate to lock or anything. So it's very similar to like a playground where the park closes, but we don't like lock the gates. So there will still be ice, and if some kids go down there, they may still go on it. But that is the way it's designed, and the intent is so that it doesn't feel like you're in a cage or a fenced-in area, and it's supposed to feel like you're in, on a trail. So that's how it's going to be.
Just a follow-up question. So the security budget for $10,000, are we utilizing any of the security? Are we rotating the security guards from the Valmer on like slow times or dates that aren't as busy so we can utilize them at the trails? So then we're not, I guess, paying so much more on security costs?
Probably not to start off with. Maybe it's something we can look at after we see how it's all going to work. The security that we are going to have, the idea would be when we see, say on Saturdays in the afternoon, it's always busy, then we would schedule them to be here. So we would pay them by the hour, and I don't know that there'd be a lot of savings either way.
Councilor Reno?
Thank you, Your Worship. Couple things. First of all, I'm just wondering about the hours, starting so early. It's a 13-hour day. What did you guys consider when you were looking at that? It seems like other trails as well as Campus Martius open a little later in the day, not too late, but I'm just curious how you came up with such an early time.
Thank you for the question. Can't remember exactly why we picked 9, other than we will have our day staff here regardless. We always work 7 to 3:30, and there are no gates on the facility. So I think there's going to be some people that are probably looking to use it in the morning. So I don't know that even if we said it was closed, I don't know that they would actually not go on it. So I think the idea kind of was, it's there, it's open to use, let's open it. And then, because there is no way to really like close it, especially in the daylight hours. Like at night, we can shut the lights off, but in the daytime, there isn't a gate or anything to put across it, so.
Okay, I can appreciate that.
Have Mr. Mara
Yeah.
add on to it.
Thank you. Just to further Mr. Begg's response, the morning ice is probably going to be the best ice because you come in the morning and it's been really cold outside. So that morning ice is probably going to be some of the best ice that's available from an overnight freeze. A number of the other locations that you're referring to that open up later in the day, they charge for service. They charge. So when you look at the ones throughout Toronto where they don't charge, they have that real early morning operational aspect. This one is the ice trail that we have modeled is similar to ones in Toronto where it is open and free to the public and it's wide open. So that is kind of the process and the pros and cons of what we went through. So for us to have staff available to take care of that first thing in the morning is an advantage because that morning ice is probably going to be some of the best ice available for those morning hours when it comes out of a deep freeze at night and the weather's assisting the freezing operations.
Thank you very much. I have one other question. Just in regards to all the signage, it seems like a lot of the signage is specifically for the winter season. I'm wondering if there's any chance that we might be able to, seeing as how this is, a third or a quarter of the year that the park is going to be frozen. If there's any thoughts of possibly being able to change up some of those signs during the summer months, maybe, maybe not all of them, hours of operation could stay the same, but some of the ice messaging and things like that could be changed to a summer theme or something to remind people of safety on the trails.
Yeah, certainly we can remove signs, put them up only in the winter, have a summer set and a winter set or something like that. I'll add that to our list. To do.
Thank you. I think that would be helpful.
Okay, Councillor Burns?
Well, to further Councillor Reynolds' comments, seniors like me will use that. Mothers with young children will go down there with their kids and a push thing and teach them how to skate there. We never have enough time for them at our current arena, but that's the people I see using it. And further to your comments on the ice conditions, I never played hockey as a kid in an arena. In Timmins, it was all outdoors. We didn't shovel it. We didn't get to play on it back in those days. So yeah, there will be the odd leaf. There will be whatever, but I'm sure the ice will be fine. They'll just be embedded in there, and it'll look like nouveau art to me. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay. I have just a couple here, and then I'll go to you after that. So my question really has to do with our plan next year, not this year, because obviously it depends on completion date. But we're looking at starting the refrigeration plant in the first week of December and opening the third Friday in December. And technically speaking, that's losing almost a month of the season than we originally projected, because we thought we'd be opening the end of November. And when I looked at Campus Martius, just to compare, they opened November 18th. And when I was looking at Toronto last year, they were opening November 24th. So I'm concerned we're losing at least 2 to 3 weeks of possible ice time. And I don't know if maybe that's something we can see how it goes this year, but reevaluate, because I think that's too late in the season. I think people are excited to get out there and use the ice, especially if our holiday lights starts in the end of November and we decide to put some lights down there next year. We're going to have people wanting to go to that area. So if we could look at the dates of opening and starting the refrigeration plant, maybe reevaluate that. You've already answered my question about what happens between 10 p.m. and 9 a.m., which is unfortunately something we can't control, but hopefully whether it's staff or police will be able to monitor that area a little bit, especially in the beginning, just to make sure people are following the rules. How do we ensure crowds leave the ice when it's time to resurface? If we only have one person down there, who's going to shuffle everyone off?
Thank you for the question. So it is going to be challenging, especially at first until people start to learn the process. What we did see on some other skating trails in some visits is when the Zamboni comes out of the garage with his beacon on the top and maybe honk the horn a couple times, everyone seemed to realize that they have to get off, and they went off to the sides, and then the Zamboni went around, cleaned the ice, and when they were done, they went back on. So that's generally the idea. We have talked about if we can set it up with the music system, there could be an automated announcement that goes across, which I think would work really well. We just have to see if technically we can make that work. There could also be some lighting things that happen, like maybe some flashing lights go on, or different colored lights turn on when the resurfacing happens. And then in addition, kind of the last resort is the operator may have to get out of the tractor, or while we have the security guard there, they have to start walking around and telling people to get off. But I think from what we saw, people, they generally learn what they have to do, and they will not clean the ice if they're not off. And I hopefully people just kind of get the idea, like, I got to get off for 15 minutes while they clean the ice.
Okay, appreciate it. Yeah, because I just obviously concerned about safety of small kids who don't maybe pay attention to some of those things, as well as, our employee having to deal with that. So we'll see how that goes. My next question was actually hours of operation for the restrooms. So it says the restrooms will be locked during the night at park closing time, and that's kind of what brings me to my next question, which is the spray pads open from 9 to 9. Would it make sense for us to make this just all year from 9 to 10? That way the hours never change. The park's always open 9 to 10, whether it's spring, summer, fall, winter. Washrooms are the exact same thing, and that way everyone knows kind of what to expect. I don't know if that works for scheduling, but it was something I was looking at, was trying to keep things as unison as possible down there for residents.
So it's certainly something we can review, especially for the summertime. For the winter, the shift will end at 11. So whether they lock the door right at 10 o'clock or just before they leave at 11, it probably would be more the later. And that just before they leave, they make sure that the washroom doors are locked up, and then they'd open them up again in the morning. So in the winter, I don't think there'd be too much issue with that. In the summer, it's a little bit different, just with our staffing. Even currently, washrooms close at certain times, but we may not lock them until a little later in the evening, just depending on who's in and who can maybe go after supper and those kind of things. So certainly something we can look at if there's a common time. Another thing we may look at for all the washrooms is some sort of automatic locking doors, which is something that's common. And then we could just program them all to be the same during the different seasons. So the doors just have like the doors here, and they lock.
Like the idea, but what if someone's in there? Like, when you have to do a sweep to make sure people have left?
Funny enough, we had that problem even when we locked them by hand. We locked somebody in there not long ago.
Oh, Lord.
So yes,
Okay.
that's something we would have to work at.
Okay, yeah, so maybe if we could, like I said, just look at the spray pad hours too, like closing it at 9, or closing it earlier than we close the rink in the winter kind of seems a little confusing, but something we could just maybe look at as the overall operation down there to make it as unison as possible for our residents. Councilor Reno, no, you're good? Nothing? No one else? Okay, so with that, the recommendations that the report of the manager of Parks and Roads and manager of facilities dated July 24th, 2024 regarding the operations plan for the multipurpose trail at LaSalle Landing be received. Councilor Regis-Bagnol and Councilor Carrick, all in favor, and that carries. Any questions or statements from members of the committee? It's just a statement. Good luck at last call before fall. It's coming very, very fast. It's good to see our numbers are doing well. And so I just wanted to wish everyone a great weekend, and I look forward to hearing the after report on how successful it was. And with that, we will adjourn our meeting. See you guys in less than an hour.